We now move on to the supermarket where Laura and Cheryl will take you on a nutrition tour. They will help you make healthy choices based on a low glycemic meal plan. They also discuss label reading and incorporate some of their favorite tips and recipe ideas.
Hi, I'm Laura Kalina, registered dietitian.
And I'm Cheryl Christian, a certified personal trainer. And we co-authored the book, Low Glycemic Meals in Minutes. In this segment, we are going to take you on a tour of a grocery store, and we're going to really have the emphasis on how to pick healthy, low glycemic food choices, including healthy fats, carbohydrates, and protein sources. Laura, you have been in this business for many years. What are some of the tips you give to people when they come into a store to shop?
Well, it's really important to plan, number one. And this is why the Low GI Meals in Minutes cookbook has been so helpful, because there's a shopping list there that you can write what you need. We've got the quick prep method, which we're going to talk more about in this whole series, which helps you have healthy foods in the house quickly and how to plan for that. The other thing is you really want to keep to your shopping list, and don't shop hungry, because I know a lot of people do impulse buying. They're hungry, they're buying things they don't really want. And the perimeter of the store, really keep on the perimeter of the store, because that's where all the whole foods are. There's generally more fiber, less sodium, and generally less processed foods on the perimeter. And processed foods are so high glycemic, so we really want to avoid that. And you know, packaged foods are generally more laden with sodium as well. So we're going to do a lot of label reading and really help people get the best buy for the nutritional dollar. So that's going to be a really important aspect of the tour.
Excellent. Well, this is such an important segment. We're really excited you're with us.
Yes.
And so, why don't we let the shopping tour begin?
Okay, sounds good.
So Laura, we're coming up to one of my favorite sections, fruits and vegetables. And in particular, I love peppers. They're so versatile and so healthy for us. So we're going to be talking about the best choices with low glycemic carbohydrates. So Laura, I know these are full of antioxidants. Can you give us some background on why we should be eating these?
Well, this is definitely the key. The more color, the more antioxidants. So dark green, dark orange, dark red. That's why peppers are so good. There's such a variety of colors. Broccoli is an excellent choice. And we don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. We recommend 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. In the Low GI Meals in Minutes program, we recommend 10, because that's where all the nutrients are, very low glycemic naturally. And it's really important to choose fresh is really great choice, and then frozen, and then canned, and local as much as possible. Try to support the local farmer, and organic is a great choice because we don't want to have a lot of extra pesticides on our food. So the local organic is really a great choice.
Absolutely, that's a really good tip. So we want to move on now to root vegetables. So come along and let's go see what they have in stock.
Potatoes are higher glycemic, so we're really focusing on more sweet potatoes and yams. And we've got the sweet potatoes and yams here. Great source of beta carotene as well. That dark orange color has more nutrition.
And you know what I love about this, Laura, is when I was trying to help my family switch over to healthier food choices, we gave up the russet potato fries and we switched to sweet potato fries and absolutely loved it. And they're actually tastier and more fun. So it was introducing the family to a new, healthier substitute, but still a great, healthy choice.
Exactly, and that's the goal on this DVD, is for you to be creative. Try new recipes. And we have this wonderful recipe, we love this. This is a spaghetti squash, and we have this recipe in our book. You can actually cut it in half, you bake it, and then you scrape away the seeds, and then you use a fork to get this fresh, and it's actually like spaghetti.
Yeah,
really
it's fabulous. And yet I've used a salsa poured over it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. I've also done a true spaghetti sauce. A very versatile vegetable and very delicious.
And it looks really fancy. My daughter actually cuts it in half, then puts the spaghetti squash back in with the salsa and puts Parmesan cheese on top. And it looks like she's cooked for hours.
Absolutely. It's something you can serve to guests, and it's a healthy, healthy alternative. So Laura, let's talk about vegetables and the convenience factor that we're seeing more in the grocery stores now. In our cookbook, Low Glycemic Meals, we talk about taking whole vegetables and chopping them up and getting them prepared in your Tupperwares. However, that doesn't always work for everybody every time, and you will now see that stores are coming out with already prepared vegetables such as julienne carrots, They're coming out with the mini carrots.
And I love the salads. These are just my favorite. My daughter loves them because it's such a quick and easy meal idea. You can add some healthy proteins. You can add anything you want to it in terms of nuts and berries and make a really, really healthy salad quickly.
And I know that coleslaw is another option I love. It's quick and convenient. If you don't have time to chop up a cabbage, it's great to just grab a package. You can make a quick stir fry, or you could make a coleslaw, add some cranberries, some nuts, a vinaigrette dressing, a really healthy, fast, convenient choice.
Yes. This is my favorite section, the organic fruits. And it's really important when you're thinking about low glycemic eating is you want to have the whole food. That's where the fiber is. As soon as something is turned into juice, you increase the glycemic index. So really avoid juices. It really does put up the glycemic index. So apples are a much better choice. A fresh orange is a better choice, and you're getting all that fiber as well.
Yeah, and you know what I love about all these fruits, Laura, is I like a shake in the morning. And so I love to get into some of the berry families. They're really low glycemic. They're, again, full of fiber and antioxidants, very healthy. Add a lot of flavor to the shake if you like a shake for breakfast or in the day. And the other thing I wanted to point out is lemons and limes. These are terrific, and I know both of us use these for flavor. Instead of butter and sugar, squeezing a fresh lemon or a fresh lime on your vegetables absolutely brings the vegetable to life without adding extra calories. And also being acidic can help with the glycemic index as well.
Exactly.
So a great tip and something you want to consider.
Yeah, I like lemons because if you're making a fruit salad, it prevents the browning of the apples or the bananas, etc. So great to add lemon juice to fruit salad.
Right, and the other thing, Laura, I wanted to mention, although some of the tropical fruits can be slightly higher glycemic, if you were to get, say, a pineapple, and that's a little tip I learned, if you just leave it on the counter like this, the sugar forms in the bottom. If you take it on its side and each day roll your pineapple, it distributes the sugar content throughout the pineapple, makes for a much tastier pineapple when you go to cut it.
Cheryl had mentioned about the importance of adding lemon juice or lime to freshen up the flavor of your meals rather than adding a lot of extra sodium or other, people use a lot of fat also when they're trying to create a salad. So we love fresh herbs and spices. This is cilantro, adds a wonderful flavor to salad, really crisp and fresh. You can use parsley as well. Lots of great ideas with fresh herbs.
And I love to put that into our homemade salsa. Actually makes the dish.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to point out, Laura, was with the asparagus, for instance, which is a wonderful, wonderful food, lots of antioxidants here. When I'm doing my asparagus, I put them on a cookie sheet with a little olive oil, and instead of adding a lot of sodium, I'll blend up or chop up fine a lot of the fresh herbs, and that really brings out the flavor of the food, including maybe some garlic or onions. Delicious, and again, a really good alternative to getting into the fats and sugars.
Yes, especially garlic. Garlic is so healthy for your heart and adds wonderful flavor to
I love it.
everything.
You got to have the whole group eat it with you. That's the only thing.
Correct,
Yes.
Off we go to the next section.
Excellent. Let's move on.
Here we are now in the protein section, and there's animal proteins and there's plant proteins, and we really are trying to encourage people to eat more plant proteins.
Right.
3 to 4 times a week, and we're going to talk about tofu and all the benefits of that as well. But when we come to animal proteins, we've got beef and chicken. We also have fish, a great source of nutrition as well. When it comes to the red meats, what we're recommending is, a couple times a week, and choose the meats which aren't as high in fat. And so generally the more marbled the meat, the higher the fat. So we can look at some choices here. Like here's an example of a grilling steak. You can actually see the marbling, so that's a much higher source of fat, versus actually the cheaper cuts of meat, the slow cooked meats, are generally lower in fat.
Well, I know, Laura, I love to get a roast. And again, this is a little tip for saving money, but the less expensive roasts are very lean, and you can often crock pot them, and they're absolutely delicious, and a really nice, effective way to get a meal on the table. You put it in the crock pot in the morning, you come home, you got your veggies in there, and you've got a meal in minutes.
Yeah.
So again, a cost saver and much better for you.
Exactly. Meat is a great source of iron, and we all need iron in our diet. The problem is people eat too much. The serving size is way too big. A serving of meat is basically the size of a deck of cards.
This is at least 2 servings
At least,
of meat.
maybe even going on to 3.
It could be. So really, try and think of meat, like stir fries are an excellent example where you can put in a bit of meat, but you can have tons of vegetables with it.
Exactly.
So meat's just complementing the meal.
When you look at a plate, over half your plate should be healthy fruits, healthy vegetables. So that's why those stir fries and adding a lot of salads and adding your plant proteins as well. So we're trying to complement your meals with plant proteins and animal proteins as well. So Cheryl, tell me about chicken. I know you love chicken.
I do. Actually, this is one of my favorite protein sources other than the legumes. What I found the easiest and most convenient is to go with chicken breasts. And you want the skinless variety or de-skin it. If you're looking to save money though, I've found that if I go with frozen chicken breasts, such as these, and in a later segment of our video, you're going to find out how we take frozen chicken breasts and actually poach them. And that is a phenomenal way to boil out the sodium and nitrates, and sometimes they have a lot of, the commercial products have a lot of additives. We're going to get rid of that. It's going to plump up the chicken breast, and they're going to be ready and available for many, many different meals that we have in our cookbook. So again, chicken breasts are one of my favorites.
Great.
So you'll want to have that as a staple in your freezer.
One of my favorite protein choices is fish. I particularly love salmon. And you know, the fattier the fish is actually, the more omega-3 fat. And that is so beneficial for our arteries. Omega-3 is really heart healthy. So salmon, tuna, sardines, mackerel, trout, really great sources of omega-3. And tell us about our great recipe.
Laura, I think it's one of my favorites, and it's the West Coast teriyaki salmon with wasabi sauce. And it has really been a favorite. And instead of people looking at battered fishes, which we really are discouraging, obviously, we use sesame seeds to crust the salmon, and it locks in the flavor, and it's absolutely delicious. It's in our cookbook. I highly recommend you try it. A great, impressive recipe when you're having guests come over.
Love it.
Yeah. Laura, you know what I always thought was very interesting? As a personal trainer, so many people would come to me and they were always worried about their weight. And of course, they're worried about how much extra abdominal fat they may be putting on. I mean, this is just a great example of a pound of body fat. But the implications of weight gain beyond normal ranges far exceeds just the physical look. Can you give us a little bit of an explanation about what happens when we're actually putting on unhealthy weight?
That's right. Well, the whole thing with high-fat diets contribute to weight gain, but also in our arteries. You don't actually know what's happening in the artery. We call it often the silent killer, what's happening inside our arteries. And here's a healthy artery, and what happens is through poor eating habits, high-fat diets, particularly saturated fats from animals. So those type of fats can actually increase blood cholesterol. High sugar diets, high glycemic diets can increase triglycerides. So your doctor will often say your triglycerides are up, your cholesterol is up, you need to eat better. And this is what's happening. You can see the artery, a little bit of fat build up there. Through the years, this is years and years of poor eating habits, gradually you have so much fat build up and cholesterol build up in your artery, it becomes very, very sticky, very hard for the blood to pass, and eventually you have a complete blockage of your artery, and that's when you either have a heart attack or a stroke. So the key is we really want to be in this section eating healthy proteins. We don't want to be eating a lot of saturated fat. So we look at the case behind us, we have a lot of processed meats with a lot of extra fat. We want to really minimize that and emphasize more plant proteins. We talked about fish, we talked about healthy proteins. So let's go and look at the vegetable proteins, really healthy, really low fat. We want to try to include more plant proteins at least 2 to 4 times a week. You know, Cheryl, so many more people are eating vegetarian, and with good reason, so much more healthier. This is a healthy plant protein, a really great source of, there's calcium in there as well, great source of the protein, of course, and not a lot of fat, so really a great choice. And the other benefit is there's so many varieties of soybean related products now on the market.
Yeah, that's what I've really noticed. Each time I go to the grocery store, there seems to be a few more products out there. And really interesting that you can substitute a lot of dishes with a protein source coming from soybean, such as the tofu. In our recipe book, we do a lasagna. There actually are no pasta noodles in the lasagna. We simply are cutting strips of this extra firm tofu, to replace a noodle.
And that's the thing, you can hide it, right? A lot of people are kind of unfamiliar with tofu.
Yeah.
Remember I said we want to challenge your taste buds, challenge your family to something new, and you can actually hide it in foods, which is good.
Yeah, often the kids will never know, and I always say, you know, if you can just tuck these little things away in a meal, it's a great way to actually introduce them to more flavors. Another great product that I've come across is a veggie ground round, and it actually will replace ground beef in a lot of your recipes. You know what I really love, Laura, about proteins? Well, the fact that they do not have a glycemic index is wonderful. The other great thing is that they slow down the absorption of the carbohydrates when we're eating them in a mixed meal. So there's so many benefits to protein. And I also love to talk about the vegetarian source.
Definitely plant proteins are the way to go. A lot more fiber, low fat, and you can start from scratch. You've got chickpeas and kidney beans, and what you do is you soak them in water overnight, and if you have problems with some of the gas, then put a little bit of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking soda in your soaking water. Usually it's 3 times more water than beans. Soak it overnight, get rid of that water, because that's where some of the gases that have gone into, and then you bring it to boil again with some fresh water. And the beans can cook anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. Lentils don't need pre-soaking. Lentils or split peas, just the dried beans. Actually, if you find that you don't like the time to do the dried, you can start with canned. So you can get canned kidney beans, canned chickpeas. A variety of canned beans are really, really convenient. And we have some wonderful recipes in our cookbook.
Right. I love the bean tortilla pie. It's one of my family's favorites and very easy to make. A great hit at a party. It's a little bit of a different kind of a dish using tortilla shells and the beans.
My family loves the bean salad, so quick and easy, so that's another great choice.
Laura, we like to always talk about the advantages of eating the healthy grains, the ancient grains, and you're seeing more and more of those products in the store as well these days. Do you want to tell us about some of your favorites?
Well, it's so important because the ancient grains have so much more fiber. Things like quinoa, spelt, millet, couscous, especially the whole grain, bulgur, so much more fiber, much better choice, much lower glycemic index, as opposed to the white rice, the sushi rice. I mean, that is so high glycemic. So the ancient grains have so much more fiber and take a while to get digested, and that's why the glycemic index is lower. Here's our quinoa, which we love. And this is interesting because it's actually a seed and it's thousands of years old. It's great because it's gluten-free. Great source of protein as well. It's one of the grains which is a really wonderful source of protein, and you boil it up very similar to rice, and you can add it to like a salad, a quinoa salad, and you've got a great recipe too.
One of my favorites, Laura, is I actually came up with the idea of a quinoa crust, and that replaces a pastry crust, which is obviously very high glycemic, very high fat, and quinoa crust used in a quiche is wonderful, and it cuts up beautifully and presents very nice when you have guests as well.
Yeah, so that's the big thing. When you're eating low glycemic, probably the most difficult choice for people is to get rid of those high glycemic starches, and this is why we're saying replace with the ancient grains.
We want to talk about the bread section because so many people get confused when it comes to buying a healthy bread. So I've got in my hands a white and a whole wheat bread. And I think what's really important is this is when you need to know the facts, and know, especially when it comes to nutritional panels and what is actually in the product that you're purchasing. For instance, this white bread in 2 slices has only 1 gram of fiber. The whole wheat isn't that much better. There's 3 grams of fiber, Laura, in 2 slices of bread.
Yeah.
And I know you have a much better choice here. What did you bring?
Well, the key with white and brown bread is there's really very little fiber, and they're both high glycemic. People think because it's 100% whole wheat, it's a better choice. And actually, that's not the case. The best bread you can buy now is sprouted wheat bread. It's actually made from a sprouted grain. There's actually no processing. There's no flour in these products. It's made from the sprouted kernel. So when you look at the bread, look, it says sprouted grain, 100% whole grain. This is what you want to look for. Way more fiber. It's never actually turned into flour, so that's why it's low glycemic. So look for a sprouted grain bread is the low glycemic choice. And if you look at the nutrition information panel, in one of the slices, there's 5 grams of fiber. So a much better choice. So read labels and look for sprouted grain bread.
In the bread section, you're also going to find tortillas and wraps. And I love these, Laura, because these have been a lifesaver for our family when we were really busy in the morning trying to come up with quick, fast breakfast ideas or lunch ideas. Wraps were the answer for us. If you can find a sprouted grain wrap in your local store, excellent. If not, look for one at least that has a high fiber content.
And that's where our nutrition facts label is going to be so important. We're going to explain more about this in the cereal section, but look to see with your serving size. So for example, it will give the amount of serving size, which is 1 tortilla, the amount of calories, the fat comes next, and then you have the carbohydrates. And it's interesting when you look, particularly in the bread section, the amount of grams of carbohydrate per serving. Normally 15 grams of carbohydrate is a serving. So sometimes when you're looking at bagels and wraps and some really of the larger products, some of the serving sizes could be quite large.
You can be overwhelmed when it comes to the cereal section, right, Laura?
That's for sure.
There's so many products coming on the market daily, but some of our favorites are ones that have very, very high fiber content. I think our most favorite cereal choice is All Brand Buds. We use these quite often, mixed with yogurt and fruit in a bowl. Love it. 11 grams of fiber per serving in 1/3 of a cup. That's phenomenal.
Exactly. We need about 30 grams of fiber a day, and most of us are only getting half of what we need. So adding a really high fiber cereal to your day, and a good one, not the high glycemic ones, really great choice.
This is going to hold you longer, give you that staying power. So this is a great choice, as are some of these other ones that we have here, Fiber One. And you can see right on the label, they're promoting this cereal in particular is 56% of your daily recommendation for fiber.
Exactly.
So another great choice.
Really good choice. Okay, this is the nutrition fact panel. First thing to look at is your serving size, because this fact panel is for 1 cup. But sometimes you can compare 2 products, and one is 2 cup and one is 1 cup, so it's important to know what you're looking at. Then you want to look at how many calories per serving, and then it breaks down by law into fat and the types of fat, trans fat, which is a harmful fat, so you don't want to be getting much of that, cholesterol, sodium, potassium, carbohydrate. Under the carbohydrates, you get fiber, sugar, and starches. So for example, in this cereal, there's 25 grams of carbohydrate, and you can see fiber. 0 grams of fiber. So this is not a good choice. We're looking for something that has at least 5 grams of fiber per serving. Sugars 3, starches 22 grams. This is a high glycemic choice. Even though there's not as much sugar, that starch is a high glycemic starch, which is going to increase your blood sugar, and there's 2 grams of protein. So here we are in the other cereal area, the instant oatmeal and the healthier slow cooked one. You have to be careful, because when something is instant, it's processed, it's going to shoot your blood sugars up. So you see a lot of the instant oatmeal, especially with the sugar added, not a great choice.
The actual better choice is to go with a slow cook oatmeal. So not instant, not fast. It's the ones that usually take around 15 to 20 minutes to cook. There's other cooking methods where you can leave it overnight, for instance. But this is the one that you really want to get.
So we're in the dairy section, and dairy is such a part of a healthy diet. You get a lot of calcium, a lot of protein. But the big issue here is the fat content. You want to choose dairy products that don't have a lot of fat. That's why actually fluid milk is a better choice than cheese, because you're not getting all that extra fat.
Right.
But even within the dairy, I mean, you've got skim milk is a great choice. My favorite choice, 1% is another good one. Problem with 2% whole milk, when you have 1 cup of whole milk, it's like drinking skim milk with 2 teaspoons of butter floating in it. So there's a lot of fat in whole milk. So when we're looking at the cheese as well, 32% milk fat in a cheese is really considered high fat. And actually 75% of the calories in the cheese is fat. So really your fluid milks are your best source of calcium. So really go for the skim milk varieties. Really great choice.
And also, Laura, a lot of people have a sensitivity to dairy, and some people are intolerant. What are some of the other choices that you recommend that would be healthier choices?
Yeah, let's go over and look at all the soy products. There's so many. So here we are in the dairy alternatives, and there's such a variety. We have soy milks, we have rice milks, we have almond milks. The key here is read labels. You want to make sure you're not getting a lot of extra added sugar. In those flavored, for example, you're fine with the sort of the fat-free and the original, but once you get into the strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, there's often added sugar, and that's what we really want people to watch. Great choices as an alternative to dairy, but make sure you're not getting those high glycemic, high sugar products. This nutrition facts panel is very important for the grams of carbohydrate, but the ingredient panel is also very informative too. First ingredient listed is present in the greatest amount.
Laura, one of my favorite breakfast ideas is to take like a low-fat or no-fat cottage cheese, which is really high in protein. There's 15 grams of protein in a half a cup, so you're getting a good bang for your buck when it comes to looking for a protein source.
It's nice to have protein sources. Remember we said protein lowers the glycemic index of the meal, so it's important to add proteins to your meals and snacks, and what a great way of getting that in.
Yeah, you've got your protein source there, and by adding some fresh fruit cut up and a few almonds or whatever you like, I add bran buds to it. Makes a really quick, convenient breakfast, and again, low glycemic.
And the same thing goes with the yogurt. So what a great snack is some yogurt with fresh fruit with some granola on top. The key message, just like the soya milks and the milk alternatives, is the fat content and the added sugar content. So you can see above here, we've got 0% milk fat, and that's what you're looking on the label. MF, 0% milk fat, and you'll see 0%. You can look more specifically at a yogurt, 2% milk fat. I recommend anything 2% or less. Anytime you're getting over that, you're getting a lot of extra fat. So now let's go and look at the cheeses. Yes, we'll look at percent milk fat in cheeses and see where the healthier cheeses are.
Yes.
And we'll carry on.
Laura, I have so many people ask me about cheese, and where does it fit into a healthy food program? And a lot of people want to use cheese as a protein source. The only problem I have with that is it's so high in saturated fat, and we're really trying to, again, lower people's amount of fat intake. So I say use cheese as a condiment. So I'll use a grater, and even if I'm using a sharper cheddar cheese or whatever cheese you choose, I'm just grating it to get a bit of flavor. Cheese is not the main meal, and cheese certainly isn't going to be the whole protein source. And I know you've had some great tips on this.
Yeah, well, milk fat, again, we're looking at that MF, and cheese is generally, the cheddar cheese is 32% milk fat, so a lower fat cheese is basically 20% milk fat or less. So read the labels, because you can get a skim milk mozzarella, 15%, a lighter cheese, 7%. Feta cheese is lower fat as well, so look for 20% milk fat or less, and that's a better choice, and use sparingly.
Yes, sparingly is the key on cheese. Laura, another favorite of mine for a quick protein snack are eggs. Eggs are a great source of protein. I know some people are worried about cholesterol, so I have a little trick to that. I will take my eggs, and I may only take 1 or 2 eggs, but I'll buy the egg whites. And so I may add a half a cup of egg whites to an egg, beat that up, and make a nice quick little omelet. And a real boost to the protein. So that is where the protein source is found. It is in the egg whites. So
yeah, and they also have some eggs now, omega-3 eggs, free-range eggs, and the whole benefit of that is they feed the chickens more omega-3. They actually feed it flaxseed, so it's a higher source of omega-3. So a great choice as well.
Yeah, another benefit. Excellent.
When it comes to margarines and added fats, once again, the rule is minimize as much as you can. If you are going to choose a margarine, choose a non-hydrogenated, and you can see on the label non-hydrogenated. It's a healthier fat than a really hard margarine. There's a lot of trans fats in those margarines, so the more liquid the oil, the healthier it is for you. So this is why non-hydrogenated is a good choice.
And Laura, I often find people, like in the morning, they're having toast, but they're putting on margarine, and then they're putting on the peanut butter and maybe some other goodies.
Cheese.
And cheese or jam. But why we can put this away and actually just go with the peanut butter, a much healthier choice. We really maybe need to steer away from adding so many fats on top of other fats.
Exactly, good point.
We're often asked questions about fats and healthy salad dressings, and this is really important because, again, this is where it comes down to label reading. And so just you want to, as a consumer, be aware of the different marketing strategies for different companies trying to tell you what's healthy, what's not. I'm just showing 3 examples here of the same dressing, one considered fat-free, one calorie-wise, and one whole fat. But when we look at the nutrient analysis on the back, they are substantially different. So again, we're going to talk more about label reading, but they're talking about 1 tablespoon in this product. That's what the nutrient facts are about. But really, 1 tablespoon, Laura, who uses 1 tablespoon?
I know, that's the thing. People are just pouring it on, not even measuring.
Absolutely. So 25 calories up to 60 calories in 1 tablespoon. So you literally could be having a whole meal serving of calories poured over that healthy dressing. So you really do want to watch.
Yeah.
And what are some of the better choices in dressings?
Well, I would say that a vinaigrette is always a good choice, and we have some low-fat salad dressings, and that's the key. You have a healthy salad, and you laden it with a high-fat dressing, and you've sort of made not a healthy choice there. Vinaigrettes are good. Balsamic vinegar is really nice, and just keep it simple. You really do not need to add a lot of extra fat to your foods. And remember we mentioned about lemons and the fresh herbs. Really try to go more with that than a lot of extra added fat.
When it comes to choosing healthy oils for making salads or dressings or condiments or even with your baking, and you want a light tasting oil, I often recommend the canola or the olive oils. So Laura, what are your preferences?
Well, the benefits of olive and canola, they're a very high source of monounsaturated fat, and that's the healthiest fat in our diet. Nuts and seeds are a great source of monounsaturated fat, as is flaxseed. So we're trying to encourage people to eat more foods with the healthier oils, the healthier fats. So olive and canola are my 2 favorite choices. But once again, you don't want a lot of extra added fat, so minimize those uses. And really focus on a lot of nuts and seeds. That's a great way to get in your healthy fats as well, adding them to salads and stir fries. And cooking as well. You can stir fry with water, you can steam your vegetables rather than a lot of heavy fats in your cooking.
Absolutely. A little bit for flavor. Goes a long way.
Exactly.
Laura, so many people are in a rush these days and they're buying a lot of canned commercial products. The downside is there's so much sodium in these products.
Yes, and sodium is a risk factor for high blood pressure, and high blood pressure increases your risk of heart disease. So we're worried about fat and sugar, but also about sodium. And you're right, Cheryl, people are consuming so much salt, up to like 4,000 milligrams a day, and the Heart Association has said, let's try to keep it down to under 2,000, aiming for 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. So when you're reading a label, it's so easy to look at a label and say, wow, look how much sodium is in this soup. Like, for example, in this label right here, this is in 1 cup of soup. So this is not even the whole can, this is just 1 cup. We can see here over 1,000 milligrams of sodium.
Wow, so you're just about up to your daily limit, and that's in 1 cup of soup.
Exactly.
Wow, it adds up really fast.
Really quick, yeah. And just like some of the instant soups, like any of the noodle mixes, etc., they add up quickly too.
Well, I know these instant ramen type noodles are really popular with the kids, but in this one package, believe it or not, there is 1,500 milligrams of sodium. So your daily sodium allotment is in just one of these packets. Yeah. So that's pretty bad.
And high glycemic.
Oh, and it's super high glycemic.
So the double whammy there.
Yeah.
So let's move on quickly from this aisle.
Yeah. We'd like to thank you for joining us on our shopping tour today. It's been a great experience, a lot of fun. Laura and I have a lot of fun together, and we hope that you learned something today about low glycemic eating, low glycemic shopping. And Laura, just to summarize some of the key points, what would you like to go back to?
Well, the first thing is planning your meals using the Low GI Meals in Minutes cookbook. It's got a great shopping list. Don't shop hungry. Shop the perimeter of the store. And you want to have fun. You want to have fun with your cooking. We introduced some new foods today to you, perhaps the quinoa, the tofu. Your family really would benefit from some different foods. We often cook the same foods over and over. So that's what we're trying to emphasize. It's just there are a lot of variety and really have a lot of fun with it.
And I think that's the key thing. We really want you to have fun with your cooking, get back to cooking in the home, and believe me, your family will love it, your body will love it, and for a longer, healthier life. It's worth it.